Population of China by Darren and Chad. China's population is rising to a point where it's affecting jobs, wealth, and overall their own people. In the 1960s, the government encouraged families to have as many children as possible because of Mao's belief that population growth empowered the country. The population grew from around 540 million in 1949 to 940 million in 1976. Because of China's overpopulation, in the beginning of 1970s, the citizens were encouraged to marry at later ages and have only 2 children. In order to address the overpopulation, the one-child policy was announced by Chinese leaders. The one-child policy has been planned as early as 1977, although it has not been mandated nationwide until 1979. Since the end of 2000, China has become an aging nation. China's elderly population is growing significantly. This is a result of the strict one-child policy introduced in 1979 in an attempt to control China's booming population. There are currently 130 million elderly residents, equating to just over 10% of the population. Predictions are that it will have increased to 342 million in 20 years' time, and by 2050, the country's median age is likely to be 45 and up. The social services in China do not meet the demand for the elderly, mostly because most of the social services are meant for the young. The uneven distribution of wealth has created major social and economic issues for the government and will influence the path of China's development in the future. In addition, the growth of the number of people on low salaries is derailing the government's efforts to stimulate domestic demand and reduce the economy's dependence on investment and trade. China is suffering from an imbalance in social and economic development between different regions, between urban and rural areas. The second generation rich are the result of the unequal distribution of wealth in China. They are the children of parents who accommodate their every desire and fulfill their every need, from purchasing luxury sports utility vehicles to holding extravagant events.
The state has diminished control over population distribution, labor market development, population censorship methods, and the accuracy of population statistics. About 62% of the population lives in the rural area, but economists are predicting that by 2035, almost 70% of the population will live in urban areas. Naturally, this huge migration to the city will have a massive impact on the social and welfare state as well as on the environment, which the government is having to address through its policy decisions. It has also led to unemployment and redundancy, resulting in poverty amongst a significant part of the population. As China's workforce ages, young workers will be even less available, and China's manufacturing and service sectors will be forced to keep existing workers for long tenure or find older workers. This could also slow down the ability for China to be an outsourced supplier for developed countries. Either of these approaches will raise labor costs. Ultimately, it means that China will no longer be able to rely solely on inexpensive labor to fuel its growth. The income for grassroots worker in China's west and a general unfair wealth distribution, with the eastern cities rich, the rest stable to poor. They have not only caused social conflicts and the potential for even greater ones in the future. These are noticed as hatred of the rich. As more people congregate in urban areas seeking jobs, industry flourish with huge supply of labor. Thus China as developed as a powerful of manufacturing. There are many advantages, but now disadvantages seem to dominate this process. The number of migrants to the city has created a demand by same for social benefits and a share of their prosperity. Most Chinese cities restrict benefits to those who are permanent residents. This discrimination has created tension and dissatisfaction. The gap between rich and poor is growing and unlike for centuries. The poor now realize this inequality of income distribution. They want their fair share. Other than social problem, there is also environmental problem. As China does gain industry, however, there has been a large amount of deforestation in the region. Quote, relative scarcities of food, timber, and environmental goods resulting from both population and economic growth are believed to be the most fundamental cause of forest change. By Zhang.